Welcome everybody to yet another Energy Geek Speak. So, today's offering is a little bit different from what we normally chat about. What you will be seeing here is a composite. This is a composite of different offerings I've given over the course of 2020. Remember 2020? Yeah. And I was talking a lot about the Elohim. So, if you care to sit back, relax, and just peruse or gently glance at all the different ways I was unpacking and exploring the Elohim, you have a chance to do that right here, people, right here. So, thanks for joining me. And if you're listening to this in early 2021, please join me for a group energy session, small groups, new moon revivifications. Please join me for those. I love them. Okay, people. Relax and enjoy your listening of all the explorations of my take and my research on the Elohim. I spoke about lineage in terms of an aspect of divine emanation, which is called Elohim. Typically, we talk about and we know of seraphim and cherubim and Elohim as aspects of angelic quality. The Elohim, you could keep going with this, have an elemental structural vibe to it, creativity vibe. coming down. And within this shuffling down, we eventually get to the Elohim. So I explicated that whole lineage. Within a higher dimension, within that line of manifestation, there is, sorry, I have to get these other stuff up because I have to read to you that which I could not post. I was shocked. That's why I'm here. Within that lineage, I'm holding my breath. Within that lineage, I'm holding my breath. Shock and awe. I was researching, I was doing my clearing, my energy work this morning, moving into silence, Kelsapries, and really wanting to look into the dakinis that I spoke about, because within these woo-woo groups, that's not a word that's known about. Within my Buddhist circles, it is, because it's a name given to a particular energy within the Vajrayana lineages, Tibetan Buddhism, for example. Dakini. And no joke, so this is, there's so many. Okay, I need another sip of this because I'm a little bit in a tizzy. In doing some feeling, this morning I really moved into my Elohim body and identity and began grounding it, and the colors are different. Oh my God. And here, Lauren, right? So I just want to offer this. It's a little bit of a shocking thing. Whoa. So I was moving into that, and then I just kept feeling this pull towards the dakini that I spoke about, because I knew it needed more explanation and explication. And so I thought, well, I found this woman who does a lot of goddess research, and I can't even find her name on her WordPress site. And she has this one line of research that she did 2 or 3, 4 years ago about the dakinis. Now, I may know her because within my Tibetan Buddhist practice, this was a decade ago for me. And it was very female based, and each of with 4 corners, we call in the 4 directions within a lot of shamanism. Within Elohim systems, there's very much, and if you look on Gaia, and this was some of the Gaia reference, Gaiam is Gaiam TV. I referenced this show and it blew my mind, Lauren, just saying. The Elohim, they talk about the Elohim is either 7 or 12. So if we look at 7, we have the 4 directions, the above space, the below space, and the central space. That's 7. So there are qualities to each. This connects to Tibetan Buddhism, talking about dakinis. Now, what I'm coming up here to do is to read some of this research. Dakinis are this divine feminine dual yin yang duality, wrathful, peaceful is a way to talk about their expressions within an energetic archetype. And really, in Tibetan Buddhism, as I practiced it, the meditations were working within this 7-point, and each point is a dakini, which could mean each point is a dakini ball that will connect you to an Elohim, that will connect you, I'm going to say it 3 times, that will connect you to an Elohim, that will connect you to an Elohim quality. Whew. Within that practice, you have the opportunity to see for yourself what aspect, if it is alive for you, and which aspect needs to calm, which means you feed the calming aspect. You don't get rid of it. You feed the quote unquote demon, feeding the demons. Look up Sutram Alion is the female lineage holder. She lives in Colorado. And she has a book about this entire practice. There were a few of us that were taking up this practice and moving it, coming into movement within each of these points so that you feed your wrathful aspect of your Elohim identity, Dakini, female goddess fairy archetype. They're really fairies within that Buddhist tradition. You feed it to appease it, and then you become the full blossoming of the wisdom aspect. There's the human wrathful aspect. There is the wisdom, divine self aspect of each. So I'm maybe getting too complex with this and breaking it down a little too much. I want to be simple and understandable here. I was doing more research about it, and I came upon this WordPress site, and I thought, oh, this is brilliant. This is a good way to just introduce some of this information. Her blog post on this WordPress site is specific to one particular dakini, one particular elemental holding of this energy of structure, creativity, expression, and nurturance. And I thought, oh, I'll just copy and paste and post it and say a few words and people will read. Here's the thing. Dun dun. Here's the thing. Take a seat, everybody. Take a sip and a seat. Facebook would not let me post this article because it had been deemed at some point wrathful, damaging, and aggressive. And it was flagged as such. And so apparently it had been posted at some point before. I could not repost this because of that. And I was like, roar? Really? Let me read this. Let me look through this expression of goddess. Well, it wasn't Connie, right? It wasn't Facebook algorithm it was the algorithm per se. Somebody didn't like what this woman had to say and they flagged it. And so I said, let's be fair here and let's plow through. Let's look at this article and let's see what, and can I just tell you, there's nothing. There's nothing. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful expression of divine feminine. So I got suspicious and I was like, really? I'm going to do something about this. I posted the link. I don't know that it will go through, which means I may have to erase this link. This post, because I have the link to this, may not be able to be saved. I don't know what's going to happen. I may have to erase that before this. So you guys, if you're here live, you're lucky because this may disappear because some powers that be, not that I'm paranoid and I'm sounding a little paranoid, do not want these words out there. I want to read to you a little bit about what she, in her research, has to say about dakinis. So it's in the middle of the article. She's looking at one point. She's looking at the earth dakini, the earth, in terms of an elemental. And so the earth, I believe, sits in the north. Within this tradition, the earth sits in the south. I see the south as fire, but that's my own system. That's my Celtic tradition system. But here we are in Eastern tradition. So I just want to read and I want to respect this woman. So I'm going to read through a little bit. This is in the middle of her article because I want her words to be out there. She says the term dakini is Sanskrit. Its Tibetan equivalent is kadro, Khadro, Kha meaning sky, and dro meaning to go. So here's my insert here, sky dancers. Dakinis in the tradition that I worked in with Sutram Alione were sky dancers, the sky dancing goddesses. And of course, as a dancer, there we go. I'm going to come back to this woman, and I don't know her name because I couldn't find it on her WordPress site, and that may be on purpose for her. Taking it together, Kadro means one who can move through the sky. It's very important we think about this literal meaning in trying to understand dakinis. Now, all dakinis are portrayed in female form, their male counterpart being called dakas. There are enlightened dakinis and unenlightened dakinis, which I spoke of before. The unenlightened dakinis are termed worldly dakinis that I spoke about before. That's me, in parentheses, because they are still caught in the cyclic world of samsara or sanskara, depending on your tradition. That is mind loops. Those are the loops of beliefs in worldly existence that are deep conditioning in the deep mind for humans. Worldly dakinis are found in human form as well as in astral, and she in parentheses says lunar form, and could have the form of a beautiful fairy, like being it could have the form of a beautiful fairy-like being, or a demonic, dark, flesh-eating being, the wrathful and the wisdom. An example of a worldly dakini are the 5-element Singrama sisters Padma Sambhava, tamed control into protectors. Another example of a worldly dakini is a celestial messenger falling into the category of a protector bodhisattva performing beneficial actions. So it's not always dark and wrathful. Another example might be a great human practitioner that has accomplished some insight, but who is not yet released from the cycles of suffering and the deep conditioned mind. The enlightened dakinis are the wisdom dakini. They have passed beyond samsara, worldly conditioning, into liberation. And an example of an enlightened dakini would be one of the female yidam, or one of the female consorts to the 5 Dhyana Buddhas. Now I find other articles, which I believe I posted up there. So it seems like the yin, the feminine, is always secondarily, or consorts to. Gaia traditions would maybe rewrite that history. Just saying. I want to read a little bit more of what she has to say, and then I'm going to say enough about it. You can go to my website, you can go to my YouTube channel, because there will be a meditation to explore each of these states. She goes on to talk about the golden yellow dakini of equanimity and earth and stability. In its stock sense, it can be stuck. It can be stubbornness, lack of flow, not stable at all. But anyway, she goes on to say, there are 5 families of the worldly wisdom dakinis: Vajra dakinis, Ratna dakinis, Padma dakinis, Karma dakinis, and Buddha dakinis. This is what I'll offer a meditation with. And there'll be some movement, I believe. And both the worldly dakinis and wisdom dakinis can have supernatural powers. You may recall she talks about a story of an advanced bodhisattva that has the influences of these different dakinis that affect his sight and to affect his hearing. Dakinis are born in 3 manners: spontaneously enlightened ones, those born in heavenly realms, which is where the Elohim come in, and those born from within the heavenly realms, and those who reach the heavenly realms through their own attainment. Finally, those born by realization of mantra within human form. So that whole thing, I'll have to unpack at some future date, because I don't want to be here for too long. And these, finally, those born of the realization of mantra, these are the humans who have reached various levels of inner realization. So this is what I want to say is what we are experiencing in this time-space reality. A few of us here know about this and are moving into this. Now, mantra often means spoken word. It can also be expression through the body. Dakinis, she goes on to say, dakinis in general can be a guiding light along the path, removing physical and spiritual hindrances. They can play a great part in an individual's attainment of enlightenment. They are the forces that awaken dormant qualities of spiritual impulses hidden in the subconscious. And I would even dare offer the supraconscious or the deep mind. It is the Dakini's inspirational influence that can open one and remove obstacles. But it is the wisdom Dakinis that we ought to be interested in learning about and who we can rely on to truly release us from samsara, or these deep conditioned patterns. She goes on to talk about the Ratna, which pretty much means precious stone, Dakini, which represents the south, grandness and compassion, the jewel family, and she goes on to list the associations. Anyway, there's a lot to unpack here. I just wanted to share this, and perhaps I'm going to have to really unpack this aspect, because in unpacking it within the Dakini tradition, it talks about humans, it talks about dragon energy, draconian, it talks about already the elementals, where we talk about the earth energies and the elementals, up further refined vibrations of Elohim, those Dakinis born within the heavenly realms. What is heavenly? Sky dancer. The highest of the high is this heavenly manifestation. So one thing as I end here, and I'm just happy, hopefully you'll do this research and look at the research, this particular she's very much within sort of these Wiccan traditions, what she offered to us. There are different lines here. So with the flavors of the line, have this flavor all the way down of creativity and structure. And as you go further down, supporting and nurturing the structure, the building blocks. Another line here, and that maybe has the flavor of creativity, has this flavor of color, emotion, expressiveness. Creativity, expressiveness, emotion, building block, holding. Within the Elohim patterning, as it comes all the way down, it has these two flavors weaved throughout and anchoring down. And this is part of this evolutionary line that I'm holding here. So that's all I want to say today. I wanted to announce this and open up a little bit more of that expression of the Elohim within a certain astral plane. Astral is not the correct word. Within that certain dimension, foundational archetype that we all have access to, that we all have a becomingness available for us. So that's all I had to say. We'll see as it evolves. Elohim as a direct emanation from source. So at the first poof, you might think of it as a breath or a poof, but that poof and that breath has a ripple, particularly as it comes down to 3 dimensions. And some people talk about the 7, and that's a different book. I'm talking about, how many do I have there? 1, 2, 11. Does that seem right? Well, that's what I have. The 7, Elohim, often in traditional texts, they talk about it as Elohims, and I can't go into all the language and tearing those things apart, but it's it's a plural in terms of a reference to divinity or gods. So it could be gods, the Elohims, the gods. How I prefer to think of it now, and I'll study more, is an emanation from that which is source. So they all have different vibrations. The seven, as I was saying, and as is traditionally spoken about, is a reference to what happens in Genesis. The Elohims come down and create structure, create the bare bones structure of what we know as our planet here. So as this is now in landscape, this is essentially so I can practice landscape mode for when I go live in the lab. But it's also for me, so tell me if I'm sideways. So I want to break down a couple of these, at least introduce a couple of these names that we're giving to these breaths from the divine, names as the breaths from the divine. Some of them all of them really I've acquired from my teacher, Steve Nobel. And so it's a deeper exploration into those. And that's in addition to the meditation. Those will come back, everybody. Those will come back. Hey, Jenny, how are you? Are you back in the valley? So there are 11 of them. Some of them I think can be tweaked a bit for my particular taste, but it is seen as a kind of lubrication, a divine lube, a greasing. And you'll see what I mean when I start to talk about each of these. These are distinct from consciousness personalities, you may even say, of the seven that are talked about in Genesis, and that this book that I will introduce, it's a little bit more metaphysical and woo-woo for our tastes. So it talks about those, and they feel much more angelic. And in fact, sometimes the Elohim are referred to as one of the hierarchy of angels. So that is something to take into consideration, at least something to feel around when I speak to these qualities. And really, you might think of them as personalities if that helps you to engage with. Really, they're vibrational emanations that we, and certainly I, in my human English languaging, attaches words to. So that necessarily thingifies it. It makes it something to hold on to grasp onto. And so that is helpful in certain respects. As a direct felt experience, there's a little bit more movement, actiony, vibrational in terms of emotional sensation to it. There are so many traditions that talk about these things. I'm going to talk about in a woo-woo context, metaphysics. Can you see the puppy behind me? So that's a big setup. I'm going to have another sip of lemon water and then go more into it. So I'm going to list all of them and then talk about 4 of them in particular, because how I've been given them, these particular 4, doesn't sit exactly right for me. And so I would like to unpack those a little bit, and that's what we're doing right now. So this will just be a few more minutes. I don't know, what have we been on here? 5, 6 minutes. So here's the list of Elohim. You will recognize these words. These are names of the breaths of divine that emanate down to us so that we may experience them. This action is an action of agape, Greek word meaning pointing at a direction from divine. If we're thinking 3 dimensions, we're thinking directionality up, down, from divine to the divine spark that is the Eunice, Tatsat, in a body with a name. So here we go. Faith. Perhaps breathe and feel what that resonates in your body towards the positive. Faith. Hope. Purity is one of the 4 I'm going to talk about. Grace, Elohim. Grace, we talk about frequently. There's lots of grace and grace. Liberty is another one I'm going to unpack a little. Peace. Harmony. The lube of harmony. Mercy. That's another one I will be talking about. Rapture. My fingers can't do that. It's 9. Rapture. Another one I might talk about, although I'm content with that. Love. The 11th is victory. So these are words we use to describe, excuse me for one moment. This is Brode or Brody. Hi, Brody. He's a protector. So victory is another one. So purity, liberty, mercy, victory. Those are the 4 I'd like to unpack a tiny bit. Hey, Jasmine. And know also that these nouns I'm describing are something not just to be thought about or felt about, but something to embody, to become. A kind of becoming the deity practice, so to speak, as in some Eastern traditions. So I want to talk a little bit about this word liberty, and the reason I have kind of a hard time with those 4 words, victory, mercy, liberty, purity, and why I have begun to redefine them for myself, is they really have a heavier anchor, which points at a density in the 3D than I prefer. And because of that, there's a little bit of a drag. Maybe they're like barnacles, a little bit that create a little bit of a drag rather than a grease and a smooth sailing. So with purity, and it could be because of our Protestant puritanical upbringings, there's some history there. And how I unpack that vibration is a kind of, I did a reading for somebody earlier today that felt very much like purity, Elohim. It feels like a clarity, a cleansing, an earthy in a sense, without judgment, without a clear, pure expression, like an ocean or like a stream, like water can have that clear seeing through. There's a vibration and an emanation from the divine that offers that with a gentleness. And that's what I feel. And I'm not sure that if I made change for myself, and as I continue to explore and teach the Elohim vibration consciousnesses, I may change that to a clarity. I'm not sure. We'll see. Liberty is the second one, and that very much feels like a duality to me. And anytime we point at this freedom and liberty, it's freedom from, liberation from. And so that necessarily implies a duality. Freedom is maybe a little bit less so. So as opposed to liberty, I like freedom more, but I also like flow. This quality of flow. And I believe that free flow is what liberty points at, not for or against, towards or away from, but the beingness of the Tao. And that's why I love that, because I'm very much a Taoist. Liberties. The other one, let's go to mercy next. Mercy. Interesting that. I go to my Buddhist roots and I think about the full heart when it bumps up against suffering or pain. Has a sensory experience We sometimes call that compassion. And it has a lot to do with empathy. When we talk about mercy, there's a quality of forbearance in mercy, so that we may have to write that, and I want to explore that. It implies a forceful, powerful love going forward out of compassion, mitigating the strength and power of that force so that it may be received with greater ease and less resistance. So that's what I feel. The effort of mercy has a kindness, and what I believe it more points to is those four immeasurables within the Buddhist tradition, or at least three of them: kindness, compassion, and delight in others, or sympathetic joy, bouncing against a pleasant at something outside of yourself, and delighting in that joy. So I feel like that word, that emanation needs to be reworked a little bit. So we'll see how that goes. The last one I want to point out, I don't want to go for too much longer, is victory. And that feels very Greek to me. And so we might have to look at that a little bit differently as well, because that too implies duality and victory over. And so what are we really talking about when we embody this sensation of victory? Do we embody the sensation of accomplishment, of healthy pride and affirmation within? Well, we're going to have a little experience of victory over here as Brody goes into. Well, hello. I hope my tag went in. If it didn't, I'll have to go back and do it. So just a few minutes here. I don't know if anyone's going to show up. It doesn't matter. I wanted to continue the discussion with and about the Elohim, particularly looking at victory Elohim. And one of our points of discussion was that victory implies duality. It implies battle or conflict in some way, and then one victorious over another. And I've been poking around, and hopefully if I can pull this up, I'm going to read a few things. I'm moving towards exaltation, EXULTATION, a feeling of jubilation, rejoicent, and triumphant elation. And a good point is to make is exaltation and exaltation. To exalt means to glorify or elevate something above, but to exult with the U is to rejoice. And so I am feeling that sensation in the body of exaltation is more what we're pointing at in terms of the Elohim structuring and bringing into structure and into manifestation as a base form, that sensation on which to build, and using it as a kind of lubrication. So try it on, see how it feels. That's just my two little things as I'm still drinking. What I have spoken about before are a few of these names, nomenclatures, these names that are more firmly situated within duality. And my understanding is that these energy consciousnesses are at the very beginnings of duality existence, and really it's almost like they're the exhales. I have to write this down. They are the exhales of the archangels. An archangel, and this is a metaphor, exhales, it ripples, and the ripple is called something. It's called an Elohim. I gotta write that down if I continue to teach on this. So we before looked at what has been commonly called victory, which feels a little bit denser to me and more firmly situated in the heavier end of duality, as opposed to the non-dual end at the very first beginning of the exhale, at the very first existence, and I think is more true to, even though true to the essence of what angelic presence in Elohim is. Necessarily, anytime a human conceptualizes and begins to express, it happens within duality. Hi, Diane. Still counting horses, lady. So what I spoke about was victory, Elohim, and rewriting that and re-experiencing and feeling it into exaltation, which I feel, oh look, like I'm total hot. A mess in there. My guy likes it when I look that way, so, you know, so be it. What I wanted, and I will post above after this is done, the list I have. I have 11, which is a significant number for me. I wanted to speak about, let's get to it. So I think I have explained my understanding, experience, perception of what we're talking about when we talk about Elohim. Yes, I hope so. Mm-hmm. The particular one I want to look at is mercy. Mercy is one of the names. I keep going to Latin when I think about this, but we're speaking English here. So I'm going to, for some reason, this is old stuff, is what that indicates to me. Mercy, mercy, mercy. When I feel into mercy, mercy, there, my mind goes to different concepts, and there's a feeling, there's a density there that I have a mission to alleviate a bit and to reconfigure so that we can engage with that energy and update it a little bit in the same way that many people have updated ancient concepts. Mercy, I think the easy go-to for that is to begin to talk about compassion. I think that's a bit, but I want to go deeper into it. When I say compassion, what I am describing there with mercy, compassion, let's have those two feeling tones in our vibration at the moment. When the heart of love wells up largely, when the heart is full and it turns externally into the world and bumps into some kind of stress or suffering or pain or dis-ease in some way, there's an experience there. The welled up full heart of Christ, God, Goddess, whatever you want to experience there. The full heart in that bumping up experiences the sensation of compassion. That's what I'm talking about. When the loving heart bumps up against, visually, experientially, to pain. Doesn't even have to go the extra step into suffering, to pain. The experience is that of compassion. Mercy, to me, speaks a little bit more about forbearance. Bumping up against it, full force energy, pull back a bit, have mercy, forbearance. When I go to forbearance, I feel respect. I feel respect of the pain. When I feel respect of the pain, becomes an entire conversation around boundaries. This is significant when we're a light worker or an energy worker of some sort. Boundaries, keeping in, keeping out. Anytime you're in dual awareness, there's necessarily a boundary, a name, because it is a definition. You might even reword boundary is into defining, clarifying and defining. Definition. A definition is a boundary. This is this and not that. Simple as that. That's all we're talking about. Usually we use the word boundaries in a different way when we're talking about our energy systems, whether it's just your mental, emotional, walking around in the 3D, 4D experience and having boundaries with another human. So I'm going into this a little bit because I think that, and I feel that, and there's a claircog that comes in when I begin to turn my gaze upon Elohim. They teach me. And so there's a clarification around mercy as we, in very modern contemporary universe, speak of this word. It may point a little bit more at the Elohim of forbearance and boundaries and respect. Those are the words. Have I settled on one? I would settle on the essence of respect. If pressed, I would settle on that. If French pressed, I would have another cup of coffee. The Elohim of mercy morphs into forbearance, the full heart, respecting boundaries. That's my rewriting currently of that Elohimic energy. And because with Elohim we are encouraged to think about structure. With exaltation, within structure, we are in a time, space reality. So we look at timelines necessarily. Exaltation unfolds over time. That is exaltation, old school victory, new school exaltation, Elohim. Old school mercy, new school respect of boundaries, forbearance, respect. I'm going to say a little bit more about that. Elohim happens in time space of unfoldment within space over time. Within space creates room for manifestation. Space, time manifestation. Time organizes it. Did I lose you yet? This is why I say it here before I say it in the lab. So hilarious. There's such kindness in respect, boundaries, and the old school mercy. That absolutely cannot be left out. The impulse of kindness, when there is in manifest reality this force, hurricanes, yell out to Elohim, yell out at the force, respect with kindness, forbearance, boundaries. We just scoop all of that into our hand and we say, mercy, mercy, have mercy. I think that points to, again, the mercy to an old school shackles and unchristed, unopened experience of who we actually am. Who am I am. And when I am in I am, I have great compassion for the 3D, 4D world. I have great respect and I choose to, out of kindness and love and great respect, go easy on. I go easy on the expression. Dear hurricane, I call upon the Elohim of respect, boundaries with kindness and forbearance. And I say, go easy on. I call upon the energy, consciousness of Elohim that is that which goes easy on. Go easy on. So beautiful, right? And so we are. And so we are there. This is just a little pop on. I'm sure I could explore deeper. That's what I got today, peeps.